donut stories, but I also heard that we are now the donut podcast, the Cloud Donut podcast. So I feel like there's an obligation here to continue the donut tales. Now, some listeners may know that my wife Kim is a Houstonian, which, as I think you two found out, is where Shipley's is from. So she has a long history with Shipley's. Now, I had her tell me about Shipley's, and all of her knowledge is pre 1994. So if something happened after 1994, she's not sure.
All right, deep into the history. Okay.
So this might be some sort of founder story kind of stuff, some lore. So she went to high school. She didn't want me to name the high school, but it was a high school that a bunch of rich kids went to, which she would probably want me to say she was not. She just went there, and the Shipley girls apparently went to her high school, I think in the same grade.
That being the daughters of the founder of Shipley, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
go on.
That's right. And so that's what she said, Shipley girls. I don't know. Anyways.
All right, we don't know. We're just cleaning it up a little bit, just giving context.
And so she said that they had, she was in an art class with them. And the art teacher's name she had two names, her nom de guerre and her regular name. And her regular name was Mrs. Bonowitz or Miss Bonowitz. And of course, the kids called her Miss Bong Hits. Now, I did some inquiry.
Great.
and I asked, well, was she a stoner? And at first, my sources said, I don't think so, or no. And then my source paused a little bit and said, probably. She was like in her 70s. So I'm imagining that Miss Bong Hits used to be like a beatnik, maybe in the Houston, or even like is it Greenwich Village? How do they say it up there? Greenwich or whatever the village.
Greenwich Village, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe she came down, needed to get a job. Who knows? Whatever the story is. Maybe she was the wife. What was that Space 1999 show on Apple TV? Maybe she was like that wife of the astronaut or the girlfriend, the stoner couple who became an astronaut. I'm sorry. Anyway, so Mrs. Bong Hits one day was in art class, and some student, name not provided, was in there, was eating a donut, and Miss Bong Hits went on and on about how a donut was the worst breakfast possible.
In front of the daughters of the Shipley Donuts? Is that the story? Okay.
And then Miss Bong Hits realized that the Shipley girls were there and was very quiet for a long time as she looked over and was embarrassed by that. And then the additional story was that every year, the football team would sell these coupon books to raise money.
Of course.
There was always like a coupon for free Shipley donut holes in there. And the parents, of course, would buy hundreds of these coupon books, right, to support the football team. And so for the whole rest of the year, basically all the students had free donut holes at Shipley's that they could have all throughout the year. And the last detail, I asked my source what their favorite donut was, and they said it was chocolate glazed with nuts. And then finally, the most important question I had, because I think you two covered this a little bit, that they have. You mentioned that we should have a whole episode on kolaches or a whole opening, which is fun.
Yeah.
I'll have to look through the archives and see if we've covered it. But they have, I'm going to call Shipley's, they have the oblong kolache, the oblong savory meat kolache. And she said, I didn't know anything about that. Maybe that didn't exist before 1994.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Well, yeah, we did get a little feedback in the Software Fine Talk Slack. There was a point of view that you can't really buy kolaches at a donut place. It's like the two worlds can't really combine. And so we'll probably do a deep dive research on that. And we probably will have some follow up at some point. What is the best kolache? Can you have a kolache with a donut? Is it kolache and a breakfast taco? Can those coexist in the same restaurant? So there's a lot of hard hitting questions that we're going to get to. Don't worry about it. There's always more Software Defined Talk on the way. And that's on the list of things we'll deep dive into.
Okay. We'll store that up. We'll put it in the backlog, the kolache talk.
That's right.
Maybe if only we had a Patreon, we could make a members only episode talking about kolache.
Because if nothing, people want a full 2 hours on kolaches. We could probably do it. So
I think we could go 3 to 4 hours. We might need a little bit of prep time, but I think we could do it.
Yeah, really outside of kolaches. I guess where we have to start is it's sort of it doesn't really. It's hard to I don't know. how far outside of the Texas realm does the Kalachi even travel? That's maybe that's the starting point. Like, what is the map of the Kalachi world? I think that's probably
You
that's probably where
know,
we're going to start when in the deep dives in the
I
Wikipedia. First, we have to start with the history. Where does it really start?
I could pretty easily go to the Czech Republic to get to the
Hmm.
bottom of this
I
because
think we
I
could,
think
right? Because then
I
there's the
think
check
we can go
stop.
to the
That's
front.
going to be part of it. We're going to have to talk about that. So, anyway,
Yeah.
stay tuned. Stay tuned for a future episode. 3 hours on Kalachi's coming soon in the Software Defined Talk feed.
Usually they say the more prep, the shorter you can make it, but I think it'd be the opposite with us.
Definitely would be the opposite.
Y'all covered it over on the AI and cloud roundup for the month. Always highly recommended over there on the Cloudcast. It's good stuff. And apparently, college football and NFL have started, and it sounds like Brandon is well
Going to start.
prepared.
Going to start. It's getting
Okay.
closer. Hmm.
Obviously, I'm not paying attention, but
That's right. We'll try to keep the sports on the Cloudcast, or when you're not here. You know, that's those are the two things. That's how you get sports on the podcast. But go on.
there were cloud earnings, quarterly earnings, and it sounded like tell me if I got this wrong, but it sounded like Amazon maybe slowing down a tiny bit in their big compared to like steel manufacturing. They have great growth, but like
Right.
compared to the usual thing, and it felt like there was a vibe I was getting. I want to get into it a little bit that maybe Google, they're doing okay. Like they're scrapping their way up, and I feel like maybe when it comes to Google Cloud, you are still a little bit on the still sore about Google Reader. I don't know.
That's right. If only they thought. Yeah, to give catch everyone up. The numbers are the tail of the tape, as we say. So Amazon, they came at 123 billion run rate, growing at 17%. Of course, that's great for most businesses, but when compared to Azure, which 86 billion run rate, growing at 39%. Of course, remember Azure is like the weird one. It's got other stuff in it, so we have to like look at that as like a little strange. And then Google Cloud, 54 billion dollar run rate, growing at 32%. Again, a little weird because they have G Suite in there. So like again, there's always a little mixing of things. So I think the question that we can kind of delve into, and I mentioned it on the Cloudcast, and I think it's good for us to talk about here, is let's take the Ben Thompson point of view. Ben Thompson, if you listen to him, absolutely extremely bullish on Google Cloud, right? You know, that's his thing. And I think he tells the stories. Thomas Kieran's come in, he's built it into an enterprise company now, enterprise Salesforce, right? And they're growing. And of course, they have the infrastructure to run cloud. We've all known that for a long time. And then they have their own AI model. So I think the multi-billion-dollar question is this: is Google's position by having its own AI models and definitively in third place, but again, a solid third place at 54 billion, will that coupling the AI models with the Google Cloud offering, will that let them vault into either number one or number two, overtake either Azure or AWS? Do you think that's enough, Coté? Because I would say, and I don't know, I actually sent a question into Stratechery of Ben Thompson. Maybe they'll answer it, because I felt like if you're this bullish, if like the Ben Thompson position, if you're this bullish, you really think that they have enough to come at least get into number two. What do you think, Coté?
Well, first, I'm glad you sent that in because next, whenever I play my Sharp Tech bingo, I'll be able to put a little thing when he answers that question on Google's dark fiber. That's always a good one.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it is like I feel like my sentiment on Google Cloud has changed over the past, I don't know, I'm going to say 1 to 2 years. I don't know what that means. Less than 2 years, but longer
Mm-hmm.
than a year. That would be 1 to 2 years. Uh,
Yep.
like I used to always think of them as goofy, not the
Right.
character, but lowercase g goofy.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think maybe I'm in the category now of there's two things. One is I think they're less goofy, right? And this is the category of it's
And maybe to
it's
say that a
fascinating.
different way, more enterprise, right?
Yes,
Is
that's right.
I
That's right.
mean, that's probably they seem like
Exactly.
they're wearing business casual to the function. You're like, yep,
Yeah, that's right.
you
That's right.
look like everybody else now. Go on.
Yeah, yeah. They got a haircut and they know how to use product. Like
Right.
that's what's going on. And so like, and I don't really have any evidence of that except Well, I guess I do have evidence of that. I mean, as listeners would know, I don't put a lot of truck into like one executive because we've seen lots of one executives over the year. But clearly, there is not clearly. I think I keep hemming and hawing. There probably is some culture change going on, and I reckon on that because I hear them mentioned a lot more at people I talk with, and I also know, I mean, people come and go, but there's also like people I know from my 10 years at Pivotal and otherwise who have either worked or gone to work there. Obviously, Richard Sirota works there. Big,
Friend of the
big,
show.
big, big Sirota fan. Love the daily news thing. Whatever updates on vacation in Disney World, Padres, good stuff. And like, there's a certain longevity is the wrong word. Consistency in length of time. What word am I looking for, Brandon? You're sticking with something.
Perseverance.
Yeah, like kind of with their strategy and what they're doing. That's interesting. And then I think to that end, this is a weird way of putting it, but like they're still there, right? So like, and that kind of gets to the other thing that I think is to cite him again, right? Like it's not only old Ben Thompson there, but obviously the pillar of tech thought leadership. Maybe not an infrastructure. I bet he has nothing to say about Kubernetes. That's interesting, but like strategy stuff is like in the same way that you can kind of understand a strength of Apple and a weakness, but typically a strength of having a long term view of sticking to their culture. That's kind of what I think about Google Cloud is if they can just stick it out and stick to their culture of like innovation and developer is the wrong word, but let's say cloud native friendliness, right? Like they're a very no one. I don't know if anyone uses this phrase anymore, but I mean they are the progenitor of cloud native. I guess you have Facebook or Meta; they're the other one, but like the way they think about doing services and the way they think about things, like the first release of some software is always thinking about, well, not always, but seems to be thinking about, as we used to say, distributed computing and cloud scale. And they've got all the dark fiber, right? So like they're sort of like they're not only going to where the hockey puck is, but they're trying to predict where the next like ice rink is going to be built.
Yeah, that's a good
Go there,
analogy.
right? And so like if things continue on the projection on the kind of direction that they're going, given all that stuff that I was saying, they're still going to be alive. And if they maintain something in the area of like, I don't know how, I don't know if such a thing as low double. I assume low double digits means 10 to 20%. But if they stay in the double digit growth below 50%, then eventually, it'll be fine. Like they'll be there. And I think their main, I don't know if this is true. This is just my intuition, but it seems like currently their main problem is that they're not open AI. like they actually like you were even saying it in that wrap up is, and maybe this is just like a marketing and a DevRel problem is, I have no way, maybe if we get to it, of evaluating this, but like everyone says Gemini is great and it used to not be great. And now it's like awesome. I haven't looked at, Simon Wilson's like Pelican on a bike generator, but like I never hear nowadays someone being like, Gemini's no good, right? Like they're all like, it's fantastic. And so despite that, they are not open AI. Right. And so they have, this is the issue with Google Cloud is that they have on paper, they have like if you were McKinsey and you went into Google Cloud, if you were being honest, you would be like, I got nothing for you.
Yeah.
Right?
You have everything. You have it all. Yeah.
You have every single thing that is best in class. You also have limitless cash cow revenue to support as long an investment horizon as you want. You have a brand name that can make something like Kubernetes successful, despite being something that you install and then that's just the beginning of the work, to do what you think you bought into, right? Like
Mhm.
you have everything, right? And so the question then becomes like, so why are they not like the Apple of the cloud? And maybe they are from certain aspects.
Mm.
Um,
Well, I think that's the
and
question right now is like, can they become
yeah,
that? Right. And that's kind of what I was
yeah,
thinking about, like, just to kind of pick up on some of the things you're saying there is like another way to just say, and I think this is kind of what, Ben Thompson is like saying, right? It's like, I think as the kids say, it's more like there's been a vibe shift around Google Cloud. I don't know if anything has actually changed, right? Because the
yeah,
easy kind
yeah,
of the no analysis is like, they hired someone from Oracle. Thomas Kurian came in and he implemented the enterprise selling model, and he kind of, if you will, professionalized the selling structure. And it's like, I mean, I'm not saying those things didn't happen, but I'm just sort of like, from the outside, it's like, I don't think Ben Thompson has any special insight into that. But what he does have
no,
insight into, and what we all have insight to, is like your point about longevity. It's like, well, we were watching this when it was a sub $1 billion business and it was a sub $10 billion business. And now it seems firmly entrenched as like, they've made it to the 50 billion plus, right? So it's clearly a big business, even within the giant business of Google. 54 billion is still money. It's real money, right? So I think that is part of it. That's the kind of the vibe ship of it. Now, I don't think, but I would say this is where I would kind of maybe go back to Ben Thompson and disagree with those. Like, I don't think their enterprise sales and go to market motion is any different or better than AWS or Azure. They're probably on par, maybe a
mm,
little slightly behind. So I don't think so. It's more like you've normalized, right? You're kind of at the normal professional, and that's kind of when you're getting into the goofy thing, right? It was sort of like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's like you've professionalized yourself now. Okay, so that's kind of where we're
Now,
at.
if I can interject there, and because it would be interesting to hear more of your opinion and experience. Like I have almost zero experience with any other Salesforce than the one that I work with, right? So I don't really. Whereas you're in more of some like a partnering position, like you see other people, right? So I don't really know. I couldn't really compare like AWS versus like us versus Google versus Azure. Like I have no idea
Mhm.
what that's like.
Well, I think, to your point though, it's more, it's not so much like there's like any aha moment with these things, but it's more just the blocking and tackling. It's like all of these companies, AWS, Azure, I'll throw, your friends, VMware, yourself. It's like, it's the simple things like, okay, do they have a partner organization? Do they have partner programs? Do they have certification programs? Do they have incentive plans? Do they have
Yeah, yeah,
do they have an annual conference? Do they give regular roadmap updates? Are they enabling the field? Are their products and services, on par with the competition? Can they articulate why? So like all of these things, like everyone's just like, well, of course, that's just the table stakes. And it's like, well, there was a time, right, going way back in time, it was like, well, people would say like it was hard to get someone even on the phone for Google Cloud. Like if you lost your password or you needed help, people
mm,
would be like, they don't do support, right? Or they don't talk to you. It's like, but none of that exists anymore. Like I would say Google has all of the functions I just mentioned, right? Like they have a sales rep, right? You can get on the phone with your sales rep. They have partner reps. They have people at conferences. They have that. It's like, it's just it's like interacting with any one of these other large
yeah,
organizations, and they have the revenue now to back it up. Like all the organizations are like, wow, it's $54 billion. For everyone that's a partner is like, I would like to help you deliver that, right? So all of
yeah,
that is
yeah.
like, to me, it's like, great, you're here, right? And that's what I would say, but I would call that more table stakes, right? I'd be like, okay, you're now here. So now, and that
Right.
isn't it. We should pause for a moment and be like, an achievement unto itself. Thomas Kurian could probably walk out and be like, I did it, right? Like I've made this thing an enterprise application or enterprise seller. I'm going to walk away. Someone else can do it. And we would say he's the one that took it there. Now
Turned it
going
around.
forward, though, right? This is the question I have. It's like, okay, if you're super bullish on Google Cloud, though, you got to say that coupled with their AI models, because they're the only ones of the big three here, AWS and Azure, that really own their own models. AWS, of course, has the Anthropic partnership, and they're partnering with other people. Azure has the funky relationship with OpenAI. Love, hate, we don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But Google has they have their Gemini models. So if you're bullish on them, you're like, that's a differentiator. And this is where this is like the analyst question or the stock picker question is like, okay, if you're bullish, you're saying that those models coupled with their GCP services is enough to dethrone Azure or AWS. Like if you're putting that out there and you're saying that, when I say dethrone, I just mean take over the position number 1 or number 2, right? Because if you're
Yeah.
saying that, okay, I was like, I'm interested. I want to hear more about what you're doing. So it's kind of like, that's kind of the Ben Thompson question. It's like, don't just tell me you think they're doing well. I only want to hear, tell me you think they're going to actually grow so fast that they're going to overtake one of the key competitors above them, because that would be seismic. I mean, that would be a seismic change. We haven't seen any change in the cloud rankings of the top, probably
Forever.
5 in like, I don't know, 5-7 years, maybe longer.
And again, you're involved in a lot of stuff. Do you think that is uh, functionality based, capability based, or as you say, vibe based? Like, what is the what's your the it's not yours originally, but what's your favorite thing of valuation, story plus
Yeah,
numbers or
today's
whatever?
earnings
Like,
plus the
what's the
story,
mix?
right? Yeah, that's it. And that's kind of like you were getting at it. Like, it's always today's earnings plus the story. Today, the best story going out there, as you were alluding to, is OpenAI. OpenAI has like today's earnings, roughly $4 to $5 billion, depending on who you talk to. But their story is like, we're reinventing everything, right? Like AGI is on its way. Every business will be touched and changed, right? The entire GDP of the world is going to be, redistributed, and OpenAI is in a position to get it. So like, that's why they have this, like, that's why they're at raising money at like a $300 billion valuations on generously 5 billion in revenue. And like,
Right, right,
and
right,
it's
right.
just like, and then your point is like, well, Google doesn't, it's always funny to say this, like, well, they're burdened by today's revenue. It's like, they have revenue. Everyone can look at it and they're like, well, we know what you can do. And we've seen what you can do.
Yeah.
And in fact, we're worried a little bit more that this new thing's going to take away your existing revenue, versus like them having the story is like, no, 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 we're actually going to deliver that. We're going to deliver the change. And so that's kind of the moment we're in right now. And that's the thing, Google. So you kind of have to like tease these things apart. It's like, one, do you think Google Cloud plus the AI model can usurp AWS or Azure? That'd be one question. And then two, the broader AI question is to what you're saying before too, is like, okay, if Gemini is on par with OpenAI, like, well, then should we be giving that OpenAI story in multiple to Google, right? And be like, well,
Mhm.
if OpenAI is worth 300 billion, Google's worth like another trillion,
Right,
because
right, right,
they're
right.
already there. And that's the crux of like kind of where we are we talked about this last week with Matt. This is like where we are in this hype cycle, right? It's like the hype cycle is all in favor of OpenAI right now. But as soon as you go trough of disillusionment, Google is going to sit there and be like, see all this money I have? I have all this money and it's coming in every day. And then OpenAI will say like, well, we don't have this money. So people will speak totally differently about them. But it's all like, it's all a balancing act. Where are you right now? Right now, hype cycle favors OpenAI, but we don't
Yeah,
know when
yeah.
it will change. But if it does change and OpenAI doesn't have revenue, they're going to be taken to the woodshed.
So here's what I want to triangulate on with all that, which is great. Is so like you were saying, we judge well. If we were to judge on usage and capabilities, the I think based on what you were saying, one theory would be that if you want to be at this point in the cloud market, and let's just say, well, whatever, the public cloud market, if you want to be number one, it's not so much about I'm going to load a lot of stuff into here. It's not so much about capabilities because basically it's all the same. Like they kind of have different ways of doing stuff, but no one would be like, there's this one thing that is only available here. Maybe dark fiber. I'm not sure about that. But we've got this one, they all sort of have the same thing. They might do it differently, blah, blah, blah. But they're kind of all the same thing. So what matters for sales in the public cloud market is the vibes, right? Like the brand, like who you want to be aligned to, right? And maybe every now and then there's some window that comes along where there's a new type of functionality that fits in the chart of price versus capability. That's the sweet spot that people go to, right? Maybe that happens sometimes. So at the moment, the business plan is, if we are thought of as the best AI place for the next 3 to 5 years, that is going to be the thing that differentiates people when they put up the slide of the three cloud providers, hopefully plus VMware. That would be nice. Uh, and they've made a funnel, and the answer is any of these four. And then so they have to spend some time just picking one. And the way they're going to pick one is based on vibes. And the first vibe they're going to pick is like, I hear they're a big deal in AI. And so that is going to make them, then when they send their staff to go back and redo the spreadsheets, miraculously, the one that the, is it a rhino or is that a Republican? What is the highest paid person in the world? The hippo.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to confuse rhinos with hippos. So then when the hippos in the room are like, I love that AI stuff. And then they go back and do the spreadsheets, the weights mysteriously say whatever the hippos wanted. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is that kind of what's going on with the theory? Is like, you gotta nail the vibe of the current hot thing.
Yeah, I
If
think
you're
that
in a
is,
commodity market.
if you're in the Google Cloud, I mean, I think this is kind of back to that original proposition of like, if you're super bullish on Google Cloud, I think it fundamentally means that what you're saying, the vibe, the perception that having your own AI models, in this case, Gemini, is going to shift the buying pattern of the vendor, of the customers that are picking, between these cloud vendors. Because a long time it would just be like, well, they're all pretty similar, but like AWS is the biggest and they've been around the longest and they have the most services and they're probably the most battle tested, right? So that had, like, you know what I mean? That was sort of just a natural thing. And they, for all intents and purposes, popularized this idea. So it's like a very safe choice, right? They got a lot of people, they got a lot of events. Okay. And then of course, Microsoft, we don't have to go into all the whole thing, but Microsoft been around forever. We've been buying Outlook for them from forever, right? It's just like, you're very comfortable. You're in a Microsoft environment. So Google was always like, well, it's like the new thing. It's like, oh, the search company. What's the search company doing? It's like, yeah, I know they do stuff, but now it's like, okay, they've equalized that. Now you could say, oh, they do have all the core cloud services. They're all good. Okay. But now it's the question is like, but you know what? They have their own model. And I really like this Gemini model. And I've talked to these people at these conferences, and it's really important that the company that we use our cloud from actually own its own model. I'm worried about AWS because they're floundering around. They're partnering with Anthropic. They're throwing all these open source models in there, and they're giving me a lot of choice, but it's also giving me a lot of complexity. And Azure, like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I just know that I keep reading about questionable relationship between OpenAI and Azure. And it's a little weird, but like, these Google people, they own everything. And so that's like, if you believe that story, right? That's the whole thing. Like, if you believe today's earnings plus that story, you can be like, well, they're going to maybe grow faster, right? Now I can straw man that the other way and just be like, well, all the models are the same. In fact, we don't even know what we want to be doing with AI. We're not even sure we need a model. Like, you kind of get into the, like, what is the value of AI to a large enterprise? All that's still being worked out. So it's like, kind of put that to a side. Maybe it doesn't, maybe today it's not affecting today's buying decisions, but if you believe it will, right? And you're voting with if you're going to buy stock or you're an investor, that's what you got to believe. It's like, no, this owning your own model and the value that it's going to deliver to enterprise customers is going to be enormous. And I believe Google's going to grow at a faster rate. And I believe they are going to overtake Azure or AWS. I think it's a big if. That's kind of the thing. That's why I think, and again, you have to get away from, this is almost like, but you got to get away from the vibe. Be like, okay, I see the vibe as they're an enterprise company now. But like, really, like, what else has really changed? And it's like, it's really wrapped in this AI thing.
Yeah. Okay. I like the scenario that we're building up here, where, as you say, it's like, I mean, as with all these things, it's a bet, which is to say the outcome is unsure, and you've got to like put a lot of effort or resources into it that you might not profit from. Anyways, that's the Coté dictionary definition of a bet for people who are wondering. Like, you basically, I don't want to repeat everything you said, but I like this idea that like Microsoft is out because they don't have their own stuff, and so it's a little fishy. And then to go over it as well, like OpenAI is just like, to use the Steve Jobs thing, they're like a feature, not like a product, right? They're like the one thing, which is not accurate, but like they don't have all of the other stuff you need for actually like running IT. They just have the one thing. And then you have Amazon, which also, well, maybe to the point I'm trying to make, I don't even know if they have their own model. They probably do.
Right. They don't. No, they don't.
They
don't have a model that's like competitive the whole thing. And they're going from like, this is their model is very, or their not use model. Their philosophy is very simple. It's like, it's just another add-on feature. Like they're going to have they would say it this way. They're going to have access to all the important models you're going to need. Okay, that's it.
Right,
It's like,
right,
we
right.
got it,
So
but
they
they don't have their own thing, right? So
and maybe this analogy is helpful to them, but they're set up to be Walmart as always, right? Like
absolutely,
that.
yeah.
That's what they which you could do worse
Right.
than that. Anyways, but I think the point of this scenario is when you look at the providers, Google is the only one that actually has their own model, and which also means not also means, but the other thing that they have is you could imagine, if only because of the dark fiber, that they are also the ones who could do it as cheaply as possible, like long
Mm-hmm.
term. Like they
Cost
have
advantages, right? They have
right.
TPUs. They have their own ways of running it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because in their business, and this is kind of like replaying the Amazon story, right? We're great at cloud because we use it ourselves, which I think was always made up at some point, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Never really
Like
true, but a great story,
right,
right?
it's sort of
Mm-hmm.
like we have the competency to run IT as efficiently as possible because we are in retail, which is razor thin, and we're awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so similarly, Google could be like, yeah, we've used this stuff for years. Our people wrote the paper, and it took us a few years to monetize that, no problem. But actually, we did monetize it because like that's how we run our business, which after Facebook is probably the best business in the history of the world, or Apple. I don't know how
Yeah.
you would rank it, right? And so they have the in-house expertise, the infrastructure to not only have the stuff, but to make it as cheap as possible. And
Yep.
that's important because like I think well, I don't know if this is true, but I would assume the AI business is like the internet business, which is you want it to be as ubiquitous and cheap as possible because you want billions and billions of people using it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, and so, but to achieve that scale, it has to be super cheap. So they are again on paper set up to do that, and they just got to like get that story out there, and then also make sure that Microsoft doesn't acquire OpenAI or Anthropic.
Right. But there is, I mean, again, there's always a counterbalance to these things. It's like all of this is predicated on the belief that like AI delivers value to enterprises at
Oh,
some
sure,
point
sure,
that is enormous, right? Because if not, because we can kind of talk about the opposite, it's like today we think of AWS and Apple as laggards. Like they neither one of them, have models. They've sort of kind of missed the quote unquote AI bubble and or the movement, and they're a little bit far behind. But if another way to say that would be they both see it as just a add-on feature to their existing businesses, and you don't need to have your own models, and in fact spending hundreds of billions of dollars to build your own models is just a waste of money, right? At the end we're all going to
yeah,
end on the same thing. So at the end of this, and this is kind of back to the hype cycle conversation, like today the hype cycle is so strong we perceive that as like you guys missed out. But if you move down the hype cycle, you're like, you are actually very smart. You were smart with your money. You saved hundreds of billions of dollars that you didn't give to Nvidia, and you kept it for
that's
yourself,
true, that's true.
and you built your other businesses. And today we just use like whatever, call it open source model XYZ, and we all just use that. And they, so if you will, they were a much better stewards of investments that they made. So again,
Right,
like either one is true, but again, that story today is not as popular. That story is kind of boring. That story is like a story of like, well, we're not going to do it because we don't think it's going to be a big deal. Like, who wants to hear that story? When you go over to
yeah,
OpenAI and Sam Altman, you're like, everything's going to change. There will be no jobs tomorrow. You're like, whoa, that story's pretty. I don't know if I want to say it's both compelling and scary. So we feel you almost feel like you have to watch, right? Whereas this other one's like, no, it's just going to be another thing in the catalog. You're like, that's a boring. I'm not going to see that movie. I'm going to like
yeah.
the world's going to change movie, and I want to see what that's
Well,
going to happen.
well. What's the old saying? Is a man cannot think in a way that would devalue his index funds, if I remember. And so I think yeah. But I think you're right that if the AI stuff turns out to be if it's overvalued, if the story is believed too much, then who? Yeah, I guess Amazon and Microsoft come out looking pretty good, right? Because Microsoft would be like, hey, we hedged and covered our bets, and then it turned out this market was psychotic, and so we were
Yeah, and
responsible
Apple. I
for
think
the
Apple's the other one, right? Because that's, I mean,
yeah,
kind of outside of the cloud stuff. But like those are companies that could have made this giant investment, right? Chose not to, and they would say like, I'm that. I think they would say I'm mature in how I think about investing in new problems, right? And this is the ultimate. I think the ultimate question is like, okay, if you are to dethrone Amazon, again, this is just classic, whatever McKinsey strategy. Like the only way to beat a competitor is to take their strength and turn it against them, right? The strength of AWS, as we've talked about millions of times, right? Customer focus. They build only things that the customers want. They stay close to the customers and that thing. It's like, okay, that is their greatest strength. Their weakness would be like Google Cloud. Google's over here. It's like, I don't even know. We got people researching stuff. We have no idea what's going to happen with it. Turns out some of that stuff, this matrix multiplication and this all you need is attention. No one's asking for that. In fact, nobody even like knows what they're doing, right? But then they publish the paper and it's like, whoa, turns out this is probably worth $1 trillion, right? But Amazon, that project never gets funded at Amazon. That's against the ethos. Whereas Google
Yeah.
is like, yeah, we do this all the time. And again, like we look upon Google as being like, again, another vibe. It's like, oh, it's a country club. Everyone's just like, they're riding their weird colored bikes around. They're not doing anything. But like occasionally, what you were saying before, it's like they pop out something that's totally new, right? Like Gmail would be an example, right? We're like, whoa,
Yeah.
that group like did something completely new and no one's asking for it because nobody even knows what to ask for, right? So that's the ultimate, Amazon will never, if you're going to take down Amazon, that's how you're going to do it, right? If you're going to take down Amazon because I did a bunch of customer interviews and I figured out what they want, I made storage a little bit better, it's like probably not. Amazon's like really good at that. They're probably going to do that better than you.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. So here's maybe to close out the topic. Here's my McKinsey advice. Well, sorry, not McKinsey. As always, the Software Defined Talk Management Consulting, LLC. Always, we're ironically for what I'm about to say, we're always trying to lead gen with free advice and bring it in. And
Yep.
I think I looked what the interns came back with after last night, and I think our analysis is for Google, it's just right there. I don't know what a sports analogy is, Brandon. I'm sure there's one, but it's just right there. All they need, they really got to get their marketing game on. They got to get out there, and it's not only like traditional marketing. It's also that weird category of what do they call it nowadays? Alliances. It's kind of ecosystem. There you go. That's the even broader thing of what the Matt Ray and the JJ team used to do, and the other person. You got to build out the ecosystem. Go read Crossing the Chasm and Inside the Tornado. Get your reference cases. Kind of go to the customers and be like, hey, here's how you apply the AI. Here's how we're going to solve your problems. And then after that, it's just like you got to have something different, but a similar feel to there needs to be like a Kelsey Hightower to Kubernetes that's like Google AI to whatever. But because it's not just like in the infrastructure YAML space, you're going to need like 20 of those, right? Like you might even need to bring Shingy out of retirement. Like there needs to be maybe we could leave it off at this and we can pick this up as a cliffhanger. Is Google good at commercializing thought leadership? I don't know.
Well, I mean, maybe said a more succinct way would be like they don't have an answer for Sam Altman. Sam Altman is out here just preaching, all kinds of I don't know, it's crazy, like grandiose visions, right? And so Google either doesn't have a person that can do that, or they have strategically decided they're not going to do that because it sort of conflicts with their business, right? It's sort of like OpenAI is using the weakness. It's like OpenAI has nothing to lose. They make $5 billion. There's nothing to lose, right? They're worth it. Whereas Google makes, I don't know how many billions of revenue per quarter. So it's one or the other. They either don't have that person or they haven't decided that they're going to like do that, because that's what you would need, right? That's the thing. You need someone who's like, yep, Google's like, yeah, everything's about to change and we're doing it. And, but again, they're putting huge revenue at risk to say that, right? The amount, like probably only, Larry Page or Sergey, the founders of the company would have enough clout to do that. Everyone else would be like, no, do not put the most, to what you're saying before. It's like, it's certainly the business with the greatest margin ever built, right? Like how much the margin on a search ad's got to be like 95%, right? So like everyone else is like, no, do not mess with that. But only somebody with like a founder type of thing can be like, no, I'm redoing it all. And it's probably crazy. No one should probably do it, but who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah. What else is going on over there in aluminum manufacturing? So also in cloud news, there was I didn't go read the full transcript, so maybe it's out of context, but I like to keep track of which inning we're in.
Yeah.
in the public cloud game. And like I had concluded after some rigorous analysis that I debuted at Configuration Management Camp 2025 in Ghent on February 4th or 6th. I forget the date. That I don't actually remember, so I'm kind of making this up by feel. I was saying we're maybe in the third or fourth inning, based on, IBM way out ahead on their projections. I think other places, puts us into that inning. But I feel like I'm going to have to move it back to maybe the start of the first inning, because Andy Jassy was saying that there's only 85% to 90% of global IT spend is still on premises. Now, here's why I'm hesitating slightly and I key into this. There's a difference between spend and usage, right? Like maybe what it is that the workloads, maybe we're in the eighth inning, right? And we're way there. And tell me if this works. I don't know baseball very well. Maybe we're in the eighth inning and the public cloud companies are like down by some amount because the private cloud people are holding on to this huge ball of revenue.
Yeah, got a big lead.
So what the public cloud companies are like, we're gonna get like 6 of those runners. Like we just got to wipe up. The time is gone.
We're gonna hit a bunch of home runs and grand slams right in the ninth inning to win the game.
So we could be, because he's talking about revenue. That might be points versus usage. So the time period might be different. But I feel like maybe you don't really ever get 6 or 10 points in one inning of baseball, right? Like maybe in the Pee Wee leagues that this happens. But
we can go to extra innings. But maybe the ultimate question here is like, and it's because we kind of talking about, valuation, right? It's really today's earnings plus a story. It's like, can we say this? Do you think we could say this? As long as Andy Jassy is the CEO of Amazon, we will never leave the early innings of cloud. It will never be more than, there will never be more than, say, 80% of today's spend is still on premise. Like it will never change, because like, why would he change that? Because that's his story, is always that like we have infinite growth in front of us. And if he were to come out and be like, well, I think we've seen 70% of what we're going to see move to the cloud. Imagine if he said that, like the stock would go down tremendously. So I guess it's just sort of like there is, and this is why I think it's both. I mean, it's kind of tongue in cheek. We talk about it, but it's also sort of like, no, he can never, even regardless of what he says, like it's kind of back to your quote about like, he could never be confronted with a data point that would tell him there wasn't like 80% left of things to move to the cloud, even after, I don't know, how many years since AWS launched? 20 years, 15, 20
I think
years?
I looked it up, and S3 came out in 2005 or 2004. I forget.
So we're talking like 20 years into this. We're still only 15% through. And it's like, to me, it's just like, you're never going to say it's moving. Because I think, friend of the show, Brian Gracelig on Cloudcast, like he had a great line in his Sunday conversation. It's like, and it was something like along the lines of like, if the workload hasn't moved to the cloud, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And the reason isn't, we don't know. The reason isn't like, we've never thought about it. The reason is we can't move it. We don't want to move it. It's steady state. It's complicated, and the list goes on. And that's the part, like, but you're never going to see Andy Jassy say that, right? He's always just going to be like, yeah, it's out there. Because you could qualify and be like, well, there's 80% or 85% still out there, but 50% is never going to move. And then this is your world. Like, I mean, obviously close to VMware. It's like VMware, people are using VMware to manage VMs today, probably more than they ever have. Like there are probably more VMs under management in VMware than there ever have been, right? And that's like a super boring thing to say, but it's like, it doesn't feel like there's a huge change coming, right? I mean, I don't feel like next year it's like it's going to happen. So anyway, I guess maybe to net that out is like, I don't think he can ever say we're leaving early innings. So therefore, it's like it will always be early innings in the world of Andy Jassy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the follow-up question the financial analysts need to ask is like, well, how much of that revenue is attainable by you, right?
Right.
And send me a spreadsheet, right? Like
Well, I think to ask it better. It's like to ask is like, okay, you've been working on this for 20 years. You still have 80% left. What percent? And then say what percentage of revenue or workloads are available to actually move to the cloud, right? And to try to pin them down on that. Exactly. Now, of course, probably be the last time you ever get to ask an earnings call, but like, maybe it's a good one to go out on. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go back to the AI thing, because I need some advice here. I think OpenAI released some new thing and that's my question. Is I don't understand what they released. It's very confusing to me. I read they released, you know, a new open weighted model. I think it even has the number 5 in it, and it's
Mhm.
the first open source, truly open source thing they released since 2023. I don't know, but like I opened up Chat GPT and it looked the same. So I don't really know what happened.
Yeah, no, I think so far. I mean, I think we're all waiting for Open AI, the fifth model, which hasn't, which they're teasing. So we haven't seen that, right? And so this is again like Sam Altman, you know, whatever, great marketer, great storyteller. He's starting to tease that it's coming, right? And so we'll have to see what it does. But in the interim, what they basically is just, you know, they just open source like last year's homework, right? It's like, okay, well, here's a lot of the weights that we use for the other model, and now you can use it open source. And then Amazon quickly grabbed that and said, like, look, OpenAI is available on AWS, which it is. I mean, an open source version of what they have is available. You can use it. It's probably good. I
Okay.
don't, you know, we haven't used it all, but like, it's probably good. It probably provides like a similar experience to what you can do online. But it's, you know, probably not that hard to run on your local laptop, or sorry, not possible to, but you can probably run it on a relatively smaller machine and get some ideas. So I just feel like this is just storytelling. It's like it's just kind of a non-issue, because at this point, you know, Matt and I talked about this last week, was like, at this point, for the story to continue, at some point they have to release the latest model, and the latest model I think needs to be like significantly
Amazing.
better, right? Like
Yeah.
amazing. I don't even know what it means, but like we need to be like, we that's almost like to the point we're at. It's like we can't even define what we think it should be, but we know after we use it, we should be like, that was amazing. And
Well, here
that's a high hurdle. And that's the only thing left here. There's nothing else. Like, I don't care about any more like open source models, or like small tweaks, or a little agent interface, or another CLI interface. Like, I think they're all cool. I like them. I like using them, but they're all very incremental. Like for the hype train to continue, we have to be like, yup. In fact, I was a little skeptical about AGI. I didn't know what it meant, but I just used the 5th version, Model 5, and I'm like, I'm feeling like we're close. I feel like it's going to happen like next
yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah.
Because then it's like OpenAI is going to be worth, you know, $1 trillion, right? Otherwise, but if we're out, we're like, huh, it doesn't use M dash as much. It seems like it used like it uses punctuation in a more consistent way that we see in everyday writing. I think that's going to be quite a letdown, right? We'll be like, that wasn't really what we were waiting for.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because I was thinking of two heuristics, two gut checks, and the first one was related to that, which is, so I found the limits of AI helping me write recently, uh, and that is, we find, you know, something I was working on, some copywriter, not some, it's like a good copywriter that I know, copy editor. They were like, hey, and you know, they could totally tell that I'd use an AI to help write something. Right now, in my defense, I'd spent a lot of time tuning it, and I actually spent probably as much time with the text as I would have if I didn't use an AI. I was just
Mm-hmm.
using it to write with. But it was good, because I found, at first I was like embarrassed and shamed. And then I was like, no, no, no. Whenever I go about doing this stuff, I'm always looking to like, to find the limit, to like break the envelope so that I can find out where the envelope was. Right.
Sure.
And like, I think I found it. Like, I found how far you can go before it's like not good. Now, I think, you know, if you could, with very little effort, if I could actually, how does the math work? If I could only use, I'm going to say, half of my time to write something that was as good as if I spent 100% of my time to write something. Well, I'm getting some Anchorman vibes here. Then like, then that would be amazing, right? If it actually could like do the writing as well as if I did it on my own, or anyone else for that matter, right? That would be a pretty big deal. And then related to that, and maybe it'll be just in time for back to school, if basically the entire education system is just like, it's over, we're done, right? Like, we have nothing to contribute to this. Like, either everyone can perfectly plagiarize everything, or just a student talking to a chat bot is as good as talking to a teacher.
Right.
I think that would be another significant like jump there, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not really, I don't have a lot of firsthand experience. Like, I mean, I have firsthand experience educating myself. Well, I guess I do. Like, and you do as well, right? Like, you try to get the AI to educate you about programming, and you're kind of like, I like what you're doing, but not yet, right? Like you
Hmm.
still like it's still not even writing your own code, but just like telling you about it and educating you, right? And but if it was like the perfect teacher, if it can give a presentation like Josh Long can, then maybe we've reached some significant
Yeah.
milestone, even before we have AGI stuff.
Yeah, well, I like what you're saying there. I think it's maybe it's just more. It's sort of it isn't like the writing's a good example. Like you can kind of spot AI writing. Like if it gets to the point it doesn't, it's just indistinguishable between you
Right.
and that's a great that would probably be an achievement. But it's like I don't know. The writing thing is always like funny thing. It's always like, well, it's like I mean I don't know. It's like you can have an email from me that's probably like a little bit shorter. That's maybe bullet points. Probably has a couple grammatical. If I'm writing it fast, maybe it has some couple grammatical errors in it.
Right.
But it gets the point across, and it's kind of terse, and it's just whatever it wants. Or you can have one that's just like has a little bit more flowery languages, throws in a little bit M dashes, stuff I probably wouldn't use, but it's 100%
Right.
accurate, and it's just like
It,
what like so it's kind of back to like what do people want, what is it
exactly.
that you
And
want,
I think
right?
I think so. I think there's two paths there, which is a great way of illustrating it. Is at the current amount, I'm just going to say this in general, that AI is valuated at, the way that it's thought, it needs to be civilization changing. And
Right.
maybe, well, in the same way that Google search and Facebook are civilization changing, and the iPhone, right? Like those are like, those are civilization changing. They're big deals, right? And so it needs to deliver on that. Now, there's another path where it's, let's just call it like enterprise AI, where it's like, yeah, we spend less time writing emails. Like the emails aren't good, but they help us make money, right? Like
Right.
because it's basically it's the old thing of like this meeting should have been an email and now it is,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
we could like that would be amazing, but it's probably not the TAM
And
that
it's
the
like you
AI
could say like
would
it's go further, be like it's an email, it's 100% grammatically correct, it has accurate links, and it's and it's like, okay, great, is that what you want? And people are like, oh no, you used AI. Okay, well, you want me to send an email that maybe it's a little shorter and has some grammar errors in it or something I didn't read? It's like, no, I don't want you to either. No, I want you to spend extra time proofreading the email, making it look
exactly.
like the AI thing, but not any of the AI works. But like, what is that like? But what's the value of that? You know what I mean? It's like, yes, if I spent more time proofreading and getting it, it would be a better email. But it's like, to me, it's just like that's just a waste of my time, though. Like, I don't want to. So again,
And I
it's all
guess
back to like, what do we want? It's like
yeah. And
if I want something quick.
maybe the middle ground is if over the next 3 years, if we hear people like AI will be a big deal if we hear people saying, I love using Salesforce. I think maybe that is like it'll be the perfect mix of these two things because it'll have like fixed all of that and fix that I don't know, that stuff that just seems to be right there on the floor to pick up and just make more
Well,
money
maybe
out of
here
it.
I'll leave it on an optimistic note here a little bit. It's like I saw a demo of something, and it's just a demo, but it was like because there's all this idea of AI agents, which I sort of don't like. I don't want to manage a lot of agents. I don't want to be like, but I saw this kind of concept of it, like flipping it around, where it's like no, like it kind of showed you as the like you're the center, right, of it, and the AIs are sort of prompting you as to what they need from you and what you need to do. And the idea, right, was just sort of like, hey, they're out taking care of, like, they're kind of protecting you, right? They're answering all, like, think about all the information routing we all do every day, right? Like, where's this? Where's the link for that? Can you tell me this? It's like, no, they're doing all of those things, but the AI is sort of presenting to you. It's like, Brandon, the most valuable thing you can do for the company right now is this. And normally you can do it, right? And I want you spending your time doing this, and I'll spend the time doing the expense reports, routing the information around, and it's like that. Like to me, that was like, oh, I like that. Like I just like the idea of like, like give me the meaningful work that really moves the company forward, right? In some way, or
Yeah.
or organization forward. Like show me that's what I need to be doing, and like get me out of like what do most people do? Like you get up in the morning, you look at your email, you spend 40 minutes responding to emails, right? And it's probably stuff that you had no work at planning to do, right? And I was like, oh, like don't do, like take all that work away from me. Be like for you, Coté, be like, Coté, we need a keynote presentation for this. I've looked at all the recent keynotes from all the recent competitors. Here's some things that are working well. Here's some things that aren't. We really need a keynote presentation from you that kind of delivers this, this, and this, but it needs to like have a little punch, right? We want you working on that. You'd probably be like, that's good. Like, you know what? You'd probably be like, I'm on
That'd
that
be
all
great.
day, right? And then the things maybe and it's like I'm taking care of all this other work for you. Like no one else is bothering you because that's all we need from you. All this information routing and this expense stuff and all the forms you have to fill in, I'm doing that for you. It's like, I love it. Right. So I was like, so again, it was just like a demo, but I was like, okay, I like it. It's like, I'm not managing the agents. It's like the agents are sort of like, here's your place in the world. And here's the thing you're good at. And I want you doing the thing you're good
I
at.
think that
And I was
that'd be
like, I'm
perfect.
in, I want that.
Yeah, I think
So
we all say booking travel terrible use case for AI. I think what we need to replace it with is file my expenses. Just
I
like
100%. Right. I did
all
yesterday.
you that just whatever that is, that's the use case we care about. If you
I
can do
count them now.
that,
I started counting them because yesterday I had to fill out 8 forms where I put my name in, I think probably 10 times, right? Name, address, some other information that's well known about myself. I'm like, this is it. This is an AI test.
yeah,
Fill
you're
all
like
this stuff out for
this
me.
whether it's Concur, Workday, Expensify, these things got APIs. You do them in a browser, you figure it out, genius, right?
Go for
Like
it.
do it.
Well said.
Speaking of things that geniuses figure out, we always have a lot of geniuses interacting with us and writing to us. We have any bureaucracy this episode?
Just a couple things. One, the normal call out. If you like a sticker, please send your postal address to stickers at softwaredefinedtalk.com. Happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world. And this week's listener recommendation comes from JD. He recommends Charm, which is sort of like a cloud code, and Gemini has a CLI, but it's sort of, if you will, it's a Charm sort of wraps all of these together. So if you're into CLIs and you like the kind of these command line agents, you can use Charm and you can switch out your models. And so I tell you, man, the command line is back, baby. I don't know if you've been in there. I was like, I just forgot like how many things can be done and like how the command line can become like its own user interface. It's like, it's crazy what people can do. So it's just been like a reminder of it. So check it out. JD recommends it. So hopefully Charm will let you pick the AI tool that you like, and you can use it with your own, if you will, command line tools.
Yeah, love that command line. I mean, as I recommended, there's all sorts of there's that fun PDF that what's her face writes about all your command
Yes,
stuff.
that's right. Yep.
It's good stuff. Well, there's a lot of conferences coming up. There's so many that in fact I need to update the list of conferences that we have. And I'm going to be speaking at a lot of them. Hopefully, some more over the spring. But I'm going to highlight just a few. If you want to get a list of all the conferences, you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/532. There's, of course, Spring One and Explore coming up August 25th to 28th in Las Vegas. All sorts of good stuff. I've gotten a look at some of the Spring One stuff we're doing. If you're going to it, you should look for the, I forget what we call it. It's the Spring One general session sort of thing, and sign up for that. There'll be nice stuff there. There's also the Wiz Capture the Flag in Brisbane or Brisbane. I don't know how to pronounce that. August 26th. Matt will be there. And then I'm going to be speaking at SRE Day London and SRE Day Amsterdam. That's in September and November, I think. There's also Civo Navigate London, former sponsor of the show. I'll be speaking at. The Texas Linux Fest is going to be in Austin. Always nice over the years. They still have their CFP open 3 days ago, so it's actually closed. You cannot apply to speak for that, but it should be good. And then I'll be speaking at Cloud Foundry Day EU in Frankfurt on October 7th. Y'all should come out to that. It'll be nice if you're in the Cloud Foundry community. It's always fun in Europe. And then finally, I think, well, aside from the conferences that I'm professionally obligated to say I'm excited to speaking at, the conference I'm most excited to go to is the AI for the Rest of Us conference, put on by Hannah Foxwell and I'm sure other people. October 15th to 16th in London. I'll be talking, as I agreed to in the code of conduct, in a very non-technical way about using AI to play D&D stuff and what you can learn from that. So speaking of things you can learn from, what's your recommendation this episode, Brandon?
My recommendation is the CalDigit TS4, which it's just a fancy dock for, I got this new Mac. And so I went up and I got a Thunderbolt dock. So as Coté, as you know, right before the show, we have both experienced this idea. It's like there are many hubs and there are many docks that you can hook up to your Mac, right? But they're finicky, right? You turn on a monitor, you plug in an audio thing, and it just, I don't know, the whole dock can go down, the monitor can go off, the audio can get weird. So this one, early returns are very good. I think the key thing here is I think my rule of thumb now is like, one, don't buy hubs, only buy Thunderbolt docks. Somehow Thunderbolts,
Mm.
I think one, they're more expensive. So I don't know if price is a proxy. But two, I think there's just something about the Thunderbolt standard. Like the software and the standard seems to be like just better. Because now I've got, I think, five USB-A devices. That's the other thing, is USB-A is not going away. I can't, like, I still get stuff with USB-A. So it's like I
Always.
need a way. So my shortcut here is like, I believe the best way is to not use a USB hub that has USB-A ports, if I can say all of that, right? What you want to get, I think, now are Thunderbolt docks that have the necessary USB-A ports that you need. And then, of course, you get extra Thunderbolts, you get display ports and things like that. I believe that's the way forward, because this has been much more stable. And so anybody, I don't know if everyone does. It just feels like, I know, Coté, you have the same problem. It's like you start out and you feel like, I got a computer, it's got plenty of ports. But then as time goes on, you're just like, I don't know how I got all this stuff, but like, I need a lot more ports. And it just seems to happen.
Absolutely.
So I think this is the most stable environment I've been running in a while. So having said that, I will report back in maybe 3 to 6 months and tell you if I still believe that. Because again, you can always have a good experience with a hub one day and then they go flaky on you the other ones. But I'm optimistic I've dialed in the right choice. I think Thunderbolt is the way.
So I think you have the Cal Digital TS4, right? Is
Yes.
that the yeah? I think I've had that same one for almost 3, if not more years now, maybe 2 or 3 years, and to word this very carefully, it's the best one I've had yet. Like I think
And I guess for those that are looking, there is a new version, TS5, that I mean, I guess it's better. It's just a lot more expensive. I didn't need I didn't need quite all the features that one had, so I went with
yeah,
TS4.
yeah. I mean, I say it every time. I don't understand why there is not an affordable. I'm just gonna say like 10 to 20 port just USB hub that you just plug it in over here,
Well,
and it
that
doesn't look.
works because there are affordable ones,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're
That
like
doesn't
very flaky.
that
So,
doesn't look just like Skeezy in Amazon. That's just some weird name company. It just like you gotta like I I don't know. It seems like a
well, I
problem.
think you're right. I
It
think,
seems like a problem.
I'm sure the people at Apple are listening to us for advice, but I think, because it's like, what are they going to do with the Mac Pro? I think the Mac Pro, it could just be a full desktop, and it's exactly the same internals, but it's got something like 30 ports on it. It's got 20 USB-A ports, and it's got, I don't know,
Uh-huh.
10 USB-C ports, and then maybe it's got, maybe we'll just throw in another like 6 Thunderbolt ports on it, right? And you're just like, yeah, and it's super expensive, but it's just for like, yeah, if you, because I do, it's just like you think to yourself you'll never need that, but like, yeah, you'll need it.
I think
It's amazing you'll need
maybe
it.
Apple needs to come out with, I'm going to say, a 499 device called the Stop Complaining Hub, and
Mhm.
it's exactly what you said. It's just like an Apple device you plug in, and it has like 10 of every port. Whatever you need, they just got it,
Well, it is
and
funny when you look at the
it all works.
new CalDigit TS5, like it is on par with actually buying a Mac Mini, a basic Mac Mini without any upgrades. But you're like, I mean, it's kind of the thing for Apple. It's like you could either build a computer that just combine the two, or they could just build another one and be like, yeah, here's the Mac Mini, and here's the Mac,
Just plug it in.
yeah, here's the Mac ports thing that you need, right? And it's just like, and then so I mean, I don't care how they do it, but I really do. Well, this is my other thing, is like, I wonder if CalDigit, like, they're the ones that got the call from Apple. It's like, hey, we need one of these that's really good. We're gonna work with you guys. Like, we're gonna send
That
our
must be
software
it.
engineers over, and we're gonna work out all the bugs, right? So that's what I always wondered too. Because I know it used to be some other vendors they do, but that's kind of what I want to know. It's like, who's Apple endorsing? Are they like, oh yeah, we work with the CalDigit guys? So we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah. I just want some hub that doesn't look like it was designed by like I don't know, the post-market car people in Fury Road. Like just something that looks nice. Well, speaking of things that are definitely not in that category, I went to London this weekend with Kim. My mother's in town, so we had a little couple thing. And upon the recommendation of one of my work friends, we went and had a Sunday roast at the Mount Street restaurant in London. It
Mm.
was it was a little bit cheaper than apparently the Cal Digital TS5, but very enjoyable. And I, a Sunday roast. I don't. This is a thing apparently. It's like a kind of like the way I think I understand it is it's like an afternoon brunch. is what you have. And so, like, obviously, by roast, you have some meat that's cooked. But I had the roast beef, all sorts of other things. It's a great restaurant. It's very nice service. The food was good. The interior is fantastic. It's located in Camden. I don't really know my London areas, but it's look it up. Mount Street Restaurant. I went around 2 p.m. as I was advised. It was good. And then a shameless self promotion. I think maybe since the last time I was on, all three of a series that I wrote over at the New Stack about marketing for internal developer platforms have been published. I'll link to them in the show notes. If you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/532, you should go read all of them because they're fantastic. And I should know I wrote them. And I don't even know if I used AI to write them or not. I don't remember.
That's how good they are.
I think I put a lot of love and care into them. We'll see. Well, speaking of things that have a lot of love and care put into them, you've listened to another episode of Software Defined Talk. This has been episode 532. You can see the show notes, which includes links of things we talked about, things we didn't talk about, funny things we said that Brandon and I typed in when we're doing this, those recommendations, the conference list, and all sorts of other stuff. If you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/532. And you can also join our Slack, where there's all sorts of fun discussion throughout the week. We share links that we're having. There's even a sports channel if you're into that kind of thing, that you can follow sports and what's going on there. And with that, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
All right, good episode as always, Coté. Great to see System Sky making the stream. We know we're streaming on kind of a different time of day, so appreciate you making the effort. But Coté, as we go out, we'll do a quick one question for you. You know, Matt, I asked Matt this question last week. Matt is in the midst of moving right now. He's had to move his house to his new place in Sydney. So what is your tip for someone that has to move? What advice do you give everyone?
Oh, I think to be whatever. What we try to do is we try to remember the last time that we moved. And we try to snowball the effect of like just get rid of everything, right? Because like the first time that you have a major move, you're like, I can't believe I had all of this stuff, and you go through a lot of thinking about it. But the second, the third, the fourth, as you move on, you're basically just like get rid of it is the default, right? And so like just by default, start with what we used to call, maybe they still do in Texas, they would call the zero budget. Just say like, assume you're going to get rid of everything and justify taking it instead of just packing it up.
All right. Well, I like it. Well, I think moving across the Atlantic Ocean probably makes that even come into more focus. There's only so much you can take. There's so many bags that you can check on an airline. So
yeah.
Good. All right. Well, that's good advice for everyone. Appreciate everyone hanging with us. We should stream next week, probably closer to our regular time. So we appreciate you watching on the stream. And we also appreciate everyone watching online on YouTube. And with that, we will talk to you next time.
Toodaloo.